Hey, what's going on, everybody? Looking at XRP on the smaller time frames on the 1 hour chart, we finally got 5 waves. This is exactly what we've been talking about. We wanted to see a 5 wave move, right? So we got 1, 2, 3, and 4. And yesterday we were right in here when I made the video. And basically I said, look, I want to see a pop to the high. If we get a pop to the high, it's going to make me very happy. Why? Because then we got 5 waves. And what happens after the 5 wave move? I want to see an ABC. Probably back to, let me show you here, and this is going to be a good video, guys, so you don't want to miss this. I'm going to be responding to Alessio Rastani. First of all, I have the most respect for the guy that you can possibly imagine. I know he's a great trader. I know he's very successful, right? He just put a video out today, and I'm going to respond to what these two guys, these are two professional traders, by the way, professional. So I'm a little bit upset about the way they sort of talked about XRP. And no, not because from a fundamental. I'm talking about from a chart perspective. And I'm going to explain why I don't necessarily agree with them. But that's fine. That's what you want, right? You don't want everybody to say the same thing. I like when people have different views than me, right? Because it's always challenging my bias, right? And my bias for XRP has been bullish overall, long term, right? So let's actually jump into that now. But before I do that real quick, let me just go to the daily chart here. And just a quick little review, right? So when we look at the price of XRP from this perspective, what do we see? Well, for me, I see a 3-wave move here. I see a 3-wave move here, right? And then I see a 5-wave move here. So I have a 3, 3, 5. Okay, so a 3, 3, 5 is an ABC, right? So a 3-wave move is an ABC. So I'm going to mark that as W. Okay, so then what do we have? We have this move here, right? An A. We have a complex B. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have another 3-wave move. So look at that, right? We have 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So we have a 3, 3. What happens after a 3, 3? You're either going to get a 3 or a 5 in the opposite direction. You can see this is the up move, the 3 up move, and this is the down move, 3 down. So what comes next? Either you get a 5-wave move, right? Or you're going to get a 3-wave move. That's just what happens, right? Now, this is not financial advice. This doesn't mean it has to go that way, right? I could be totally dead wrong. But at the end of the day, I can just rely on the technicals. Now, in order for this to work, we talked about Bitcoin, right? What does Bitcoin need? Bitcoin needs a 5-wave move to the upside, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would be wave 3. A, B, C for wave 4. The same degree in wave 2 is the same degree in wave 4. That is bullish. That tells me the probability of having a 5th wave to the upside increases, right? So that's what we want. That's the only way XRP is going to do its thing, right? So, you know, if Bitcoin doesn't get that, you can forget about it, okay? So essentially, that's the main idea. Now, how that 5th wave comes about, that's another story. How this 4th wave ends, that's another story. It could have already ended. For example, you have a 3-wave down, right? We can get a 3 back up, and then another 3 or even 5, making it a much more complex wave before you go higher. But we're going to entertain that idea once it comes. But as of now, I'm looking at this as a complete ABC, right? A complete wave. And now this is the start. This is wave 1. We're probably going to get wave 2. And then we're going to continue higher in wave 3, 4, and 5, right? And then we're going to get distribution. And that's when the alt season occurs. That's the idea. That doesn't mean it has to happen. Okay, so let's go into the video now. Listen to this, guys. And keep in mind, these are professionals, right? Listen to what they say. Okay, so here's the video. It's from Alessio Rastani. Basically says, can Bitcoin make it to 100K plus Ethereum and XRP outlook? Now, keep in mind, I'm going to go to his page here. Now look at this. Back in the day, or not actually 2 weeks ago, he put a video out. It says right here, XRP is in trouble. I watched the video. I completely get it, and I agree. I understand his viewpoint when it comes to this video. And he did a really great job. All of his videos are really, really awesome. I definitely recommend subscribing to his channel. He is, he's got almost 400,000 subscribers. You don't get there by being an idiot, right? You got to know what you're doing. So clearly he's an excellent trader, and I have nothing against him. But the conversation he had with this guy, it just was a little lackluster. Let me explain. Let's go to the video here, right? And you know what? I'm kind of glad, right? Because the more people think XRP ain't going nowhere, the better it is, right? If you have these experts saying, quote, they literally, he said, rubbish. He goes, look at the chart. It's literally rubbish, right? So, you know what? He's got some merit to it. I'm not saying it's not rubbish. It does look a little bad, right? It does. But you got to zoom out. You got to look at what happened the last time XRP exploded. First of all, XRP doesn't move like the rest of the market. XRP had a lawsuit, not to put any excuses onto it, right? But if you look at what happened last time it exploded to the moon, it only had one bull market. So what happened just before it exploded, right? It was in that reaccumulation structure. They didn't talk about that, right? But let's continue on here, and I'm gonna try to do this in the best way I can. So I'm gonna play the video, and you can just listen a little bit here, and then I'll respond.
Charlie, would you do me a favor? Just quickly have a look at XRP. So XRP is at a big bounce back to the averages when it looks at it.
Yeah. On the weekly there, so if we take that down to the daily chart, we can really see it, get a sense of the run that it's all of a sudden just recently happened.
Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah, we had a big bounce. It looks pretty good. So far so good. But it's still, you got a lot of resistance ahead. You still got to get through the retracement levels. It's only a bounce. On the 1 hour chart, I just showed in the beginning of the video, we do have a 5-wave move. So I'm expecting a pullback. Probably pull back way down, like far, and people are going to say, see, it's all over with. But usually a wave 2 goes down pretty deep. But essentially, it's so far we're getting a bounce off of a 5-wave move, I might add.
Yeah. Just to mention, XRP dropped to what was that low that it dropped down to recently? So what's your view overall on this? I should say that
looks
it hasn't
rubbish.
What?
Yeah. It looks rubbish.
That's my technical view.
Oh, it's rubbish. You know what? Look, I get it. It is, and they're right. They're true. I'm on the same board with you guys, but not really. And I'll explain why later on. But let's give them. Let's continue.
We got a lot of people who completely in love with XRP, so okay. I'm sure they'll love that sentiment.
I'm looking at it as a neutral. Right, it's two things. I'm looking at it as a neutral, so I don't care.
Sure, yeah, exactly.
I have no vested interest in it.
Sure.
And that's what you want, right? You want no vested interest. This is good right here. You got no vested interest. You're completely neutral. That's what we want. That gives you a completely unbiased perspective. Right? So continue. And by the way, for me, I'm also neutral on XRP, but I have a bullish bias because I own it. But that doesn't mean I can't look at it from a bearish perspective, right? And we have been looking at it through a bearish perspective until this, sort of correction ends, right? And to me, it's probably ended now, right? And we're going to jump into that as well, but keep going.
And also, I'm only looking at it from a technical perspective. So a lot of your followers will be looking at it because they understand a lot more of what's going on with XRP itself from a fundamental perspective. So from a charting perspective, I don't like the chart. It's as simple as that. It's an ugly chart.
It's an ugly chart. Oh, you broke my heart. It's an ugly... No, I'm just kidding. Look, Look. It does not look so good, but here's my problem. Why are you not zoomed out? right? You're so zoomed in. It's like, why are you not zoomed out? Like, zoom all the way out. You cannot have a professional opinion until you zoom all the way out, right? You're too zoomed in and you don't have any indicators really. So keep going, listen to what he says. And by the way, I'm going to explain, right? When you zoom out, right? The reason I want him to zoom out is because you can see this area right here is exactly what happened the last time before XRP exploded. We call that reaccumulation. I'm going to explain that in a second.
There's not really anything to say at the moment.
I should just say that from people who may be asking, XRP did not break the support level that I mentioned before. 0.35, I think it was 0.3735 was a key support level. We haven't broken it. So the bearish perspective or the bearish outlook for XRP has not triggered because XRP has not broken the key support levels I mentioned in the previous video, which I think was 0.37 or 0.35. Because we did not break those levels, nothing has happened on XRP to increase the
That's true. That's true.
likelihood of a bearish perspective or outlook on this chart as yet.
That's true. No, you have to break above key levels, right? So until that time, these are very technical. Again, I have the most respect for Alessio and the other gentlemen, right? They're professionals and they know exactly how to trade. They have their strategies. They've been looking at charts for years. So I'm not doubting that, right? And what they're saying is true. There are technical levels you need to wait for in order for them to be confirmed bullishly, right? And I totally agree with that. But I'm going to explain a little bit later on about my feelings about what we're going to say, and you're not going to want to miss it because I'm just saying it from my perspective. Everybody has their opinion, right? So let's continue.
We shall see. But it hasn't broken resistance either. It hasn't broken resistance near the 63, 0.63, 0.75 levels either. Anyway, Charlie, go ahead, take it away. So you're saying that the technical side of this still doesn't look good despite the bounce.
So he draw a trend line right there. So that's basically what he did. He draw a trend line, a downward resistance line. Like, no offense, but a ninth grader can do that. Okay? Give me another reason why it's bearish, right? They're saying it's rubbish, but they don't explain why it's rubbish. They have a downward resistance line. Okay, continue.
I think that's one of the things that I have, and I'm just looking at it on the weekly chart here, because of the length of time that it's been consolidating.
Okay.
It's made it quite an ugly chart. However,
okay, that's fair. Okay, I like that. The length of time, it is long. It is long, but they're not doing something. They're not doing something. You got to compare the length of the last cycle. Why didn't you do that? I don't understand. You got to look. Right? Here's the weekly chart, and this is exactly what they're looking at. But if you zoom out, look at what we got. They're not looking down here. How come you're not looking down here? So for me, you guys already know, I'm looking at this structure, and this structure, basically the same thing, right? We have a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways. This is sideways reaccumulation. We're building a big base. We're going sideways for a long time. That is the environment needed to have this big breakout. Okay, so that's exactly what's happening over here, right? You have a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways. Here's our sideways base. Here's our sideways base. You can see there's a liquidity gap down here. That's the same thing we had down here. We've been talking about this for months. Okay, now let's continue with Alessio.
I've just quickly put a trend line on across from these highs in 2021, not the absolute. I could put one up there as well. And so, yes, if it could break through there, as you just said, once it gets well into the 60s, that will be breaking that trend line there. That might make it a little bit more attractive then. So
okay, so a little bit more attractive, right? But here's my problem. If it breaks the trend line, it's going to be more attractive, right? But you would have missed a lot, right? Because if it breaks above 60, 70 cents, then you're missing out on a lot. But here's the thing. Who cares, right? And I agree. Who cares, right? They don't care about that. What they care about is capitalizing on a trade. If that means they have to pay a higher price, they don't care. What they want is they want assurance that they want absolute conviction that it's going to work out. And sometimes you need to break certain levels for these guys to confirm that. And I totally agree. But let's continue.
At the moment it's not, but it would. Like I always say, what would it take to get me interested in it and to make me think, oh, that's a good looking chart now?
Right.
Well, that's what it would take. A strong close and successive closes through that trend line, which you've just mentioned 63 or so.
Yeah.
I think actually that trend line comes in at the moment, around about 64 or so. So
I would also say, in order for me to adopt a bullish view on XRP, which I don't have at the moment, but it has to break those, those prior highs which it made in, you see those two regular tops right there? Yeah. What is that level approximately? I think 75.
Right here.
It's well into the 70s. So
all of this.
75. Yeah, roughly.
I would need to see a follow through above those levels before I can adopt a long-term bullish view, which I don't have at the moment.
But it's not to say it couldn't become attractive at some point.
Yeah. And obviously, if it falls below the lows,
And that's true. And again, I agree. If we break that area, then you can have a much more bullish perspective. And they basically said everything right. The issue I have is, they didn't really give a good analysis on it. They basically drew a trend line to the downside and basically said, look, if we break this trend line, then I'm bullish. But anybody can say that, right? I mean, that's what, Gareth Soloway, he's a great trader, professional, amazing guy. He's been on Alessio's channel, very successful, brilliant, right? But he's very minimalist, right? And I think, Alessio's a little more, he does Elliott waves and things like that. So he's a little more broad in his sense. But it's, it's very this minimalistic nature of, a simple trend line, a simple resistance line, right? It's just not enough for me to say, okay, I need more than that. And that's, that's why my channel, I try to give as much detail as I can, not just draw a trend line, but also Elliott waves, right? TD sequential, right? Exhaustion indicators. We also have, obviously the Elliott wave, but then really is the basics as well, right? The oscillators, support and resistance. So for me, I like to look at previous wave structures to figure out what the environment was that led such an explosive rally. And the environment back then is actually the very same environment that we're in now. So that's why, I'm not saying they're bad analysts. They're very, 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 very good, right? Again, but you kind of have to have a little bit higher of a passion to really dig and dig and dig to see the structures and the phases, to really kind of compare, what's happening then versus what's happening now, right? Because these guys are stock market traders. Stock market moves a lot different than crypto, right? So if this was a stock, right? So if the XRP chart was kind of a stock, it would seem probably a little more bearish because we know stocks move a lot slower. But look at Amazon. I just put a video out yesterday and it got over 1,000 views already. Thank you. Basically comparing Amazon, right, to XRP. And you could say, well, that's not right. You shouldn't do that. Well, I'm not doing it. The CEO of Ripple is doing it. Basically, they're saying that they're going to be the next Amazon for payments. As Amazon was for books, Ripple is to payments. Amazon started with books, then they went to other things. Ripple started with payments, now they're going to other things, right? And if you look at the chart, Amazon took 10 years to break out. You can see here's the thumbnail of yesterday's video. Basically, XRPs have been about 6.5 years. And I'm looking at this as a reaccumulation structure. So you can see over here, right, it didn't look so good, but ended up being one of the greatest investments in the world. Right, so let's continue.
Made recently, if it falls below the lows, if it falls below the lows it made recently, what about that? What do you think?
30.3. So, I'm thinking of other things.
Yeah, you mean 30 cents? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so these lows down here.
He's saying if it falls below that, what do you think then? Okay, if it falls below that, I agree. It's bad. It looks bad. It's bearish. Now it's totally in a different environment. Now it's not in reaccumulation anymore. It's in something else. Right? It would probably be some kind of X wave, right? So if this was a W, this is an X, and now we're going down into Y. And I can show you that later, but continue.
2022 would become vulnerable to a reattack of those. Yeah.
All right, thanks. So it's still a very messy chart, nothing very clear. Guys, make sure you go ahead and...
So that was it. I mean, they didn't really, look, they're on a time crunch. It's only a 14-minute video. This is not like a paid course. This is not like deep dive analysis. They're basically just looking at the chart, saying it looks good or bad, right? So I give them the benefit of the doubt. But as someone who does videos, I just can't do that. I gotta bring in more information, right? I mean, they basically just drew a trend line and said, hey, if it breaks above the trend line, it's going to look better, but it still looks bad, right? It looks rubbish. That's what they said. And I agree to some extent. If you just look at a basic, if you just look at their chart from this perspective, it doesn't look too good, right? It kind of looks a little bit sloppy, a little bit messy, but I think that's by design. I think, now this is conspiracy. This is way off in the other side of the dimension here. But I think they did that on purpose. If you believe in market makers, which is definitely a real thing, the way XRP moves is very different than a lot of other charts, right? Because Ripple has on-demand liquidity. They have different, venues and things like that for XRP, unlike a traditional crypto, which basically just buys and sells on the exchange. XRP is a little more broad than that. So the shape of it is a lot different. Not to mention, right, XRP did not go into expansion last cycle. So I'm going to explain why I think their quote-unquote rubbish statement is incorrect. Now, I'm doing it with the most respect possible. I respect these guys. I'm not doing it to knock them. I agree with most things they say, but I would have to disagree with what they're saying here. Not because, they don't believe in it, but because they didn't dissect it like I'm going to dissect it. Now, look at this. Okay, so let's begin. So instead of looking at the 1 week chart, I'm going to do the 2 week chart. And basically, they were talking about XRP, saying it looks rubbish. There's too much time in here, right? They drew a trend line right here, basically saying, if we break out of that trend line, I'll be a little bit more bullish, right? But they didn't like the overall structure. And I can, somewhat agree with that. It does look a little bit bearish. For example, this kind of looks like a little bear flag in here, right? And I get it. But here's the thing. Right? When we look at it like that, yes, but look, you got to zoom out, guys. Zoom out, please. Just do me a favor, zoom out. Oh, okay, now look at it. Now we're starting to get a little bit better of a picture here, right? Because what do we talk about, right? The 5 phases of the market. It really comes down to, right? First of all, you have a bull market. That's exactly what we have here, a bull market. Then you have a crash, a bear market. Same thing here. You have a crash, you have a bear market. Then you come up into a retracement. Then we go up into a retracement. I'm going to pause right there. When the whole market was going into a bull run, right? Cardano, right? Matic, Solana, Bitcoin, Ethereum, all, Dogecoin, all the big heavy hitters, they were going into an expansion phase. XRP did not. It only went into a retracement. That is important. Now, you can say, well, that's bearish. That's a bad thing. Yes, at the time it was. But fast forward today, I'm glad it happened. Why? Because it built more structure in this situation here. What I mean by that is the base. Look how big this base is. So this is the biggest base in crypto history. I'll say that one more time. XRP is got the biggest base in crypto history. Now you can talk about Litecoin and XLM and other coins that really didn't break out, but none that are top dog heavy hitters, right? So this base, right, if we would have broken out back in 2021 with the rest of the market, we wouldn't have established this sideways consolidation base, which by the way is incredibly bullish, right? Because I'm looking at this as a steel beam, right? A steel support beam. When you're building a skyscraper, right? A big tall building, you need steel reinforcement. That's what this is. This is your foundation, right? So this is a step, and we're going to step up to the next foundation, okay? So right away, it's got very much similar than XRP versus just looking at it like this. Right? You got to look at the whole thing, okay? So when in doubt, zoom out, right? So let's continue on, right? Again, The whole market went into a big retracement or a big bull run. I always say, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Matic, Solana, Cardano, all those guys, they went out drinking, they went to the club, they had a good time, they're out there partying, they're, pumping up, right? What did XRP do? Well, XRP wasn't invited. It wasn't invited to the party. It felt sad. It felt depressed. So what did XRP do? It only went up. It basically didn't do anything, right? So while they're out having a good time, drinking and partying, XRP stayed home, reading books, getting smart, getting stronger, working out, right? And it's a sort of like an analogy, like a metaphor to explain XRP's getting stronger, right? This is strength. And another reason why it's so strong, in my opinion, is because XRP has had the weakest points of its life. For example, XRP got sued by the SEC right here. How is it possible that an asset gets sued by the SEC, by the government, with a and they spend hundreds of millions of dollars defending themselves? They got delisted from Coinbase, Kraken, they got, a lot of exchanges, and it didn't go on a bull run, and it still held a top 10 title. That to me shows tremendous strength. Everybody back then was like, oh, it's weak, it's weak, it's weak. Well, if it was weak, then it would have got kicked out of the top 10. It didn't. It held the top 10 despite not going on a bull run. How is that even possible? That shows strength. The strongest coin you have, or the strongest moment, you have to measure a coin's strength through its weakest moment, right? Look at a random meme coin. It pumps way up. It looks really strong, but then it dumps and goes really, really, it basically gets destroyed, right? So you say, do you measure it by by how strong it is or how weak it is, right? So let me continue on. Back over here, we went down into reaccumulation. The same thing here. We went back down into reaccumulation. And then what did we do? We sort of got kicked up here a little bit, and now we're going sideways. Support, 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 bounce, 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 bounce. And then we actually dropped below support. Why? Because that's where the liquidity was resting below. It grabbed the liquidity, and that's when we got an explosion to the upside. Now, where was Bitcoin during that time? Bitcoin was actually breaking out, right, of its all-time high here. So I would have to get to another Bitcoin chart to show you. Let me just show you real quick. Well, here's Bitcoin back in 2017, and this is exactly where Bitcoin was breaking out into an all-time high. Does that look familiar? Right? It went into this bear market. It started rounding up, right? And it was also somewhat right here consolidating at the all-time high. And when we fast forward to Bitcoin today, that's exactly where it is now. See, right there. It's in the same spot, right? So this is what needs to happen here. Bitcoin needs to go into an expansion phase in order for this to work out. But, that comes down to probabilities, right? So let me go back to XRP. And where was XRP? Exploded right here, right as Bitcoin was breaking out of all-time high. So it's actually in the same position, right? So what else? Well, you can see right here, right, was our liquidity grab. That's the same thing, right? We bounced into this yellow zone. We're bouncing on support. Actually, let me just zoom in here and let me show you, right? We were bouncing, and I'm going to get to the Elliott waves and things like that as well. That's another reason. But essentially, we were bouncing here, bouncing there, bouncing back, and then all of a sudden we came down. Look at this big, beautiful wick. How can you say that's rubbish? I don't understand that. That to me was a volume spike. That was a tail right there. That is a bullish hammer. That is a liquidity grab, right? It came up here just like how this candle, it got rejected from the upside. This candle got rejected to the downside. And now we're sort of back in the middle. And I agree with him. It's not going to be bullish, like full on bullish, until we break above this zone right here that's in purple. So if we can break above that purple zone, it's going to be really, really great, right? So until that happens, I have to be skeptical. I have to remain cautiously optimistic, but I still can't ignore all the other things, right? So, what else? What else is a reason? Do we have any other confluence that can say, yeah, this chart is not quote unquote rubbish, right? Well, what about back over here? We had an A, B, C, D, E. We had a triangle. Well, guess what? That's exactly what we have here. A, B, C, right? D, and E. I have to change the degree on that, so don't worry about that. But essentially, that is the same thing, right? That's another point of confluence. We have the rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation sideways. We have the Elliott wave triangle. We have the sideways accumulation, reaccumulation in this yellow zone. Same thing over here. We also have the liquidity grab. Same thing over here, right? The triangle, and what else? What else? We also have Bitcoin at the all-time high, right? Flirting with expansion. So let's continue, right? So what else could it be? Well, it could be a flat structure, right? A WXY. So, we came, and I don't know if you can qualify that as a flat. I'm not sure if it went 90%, but I would have guessed it did. Now, depending if you're looking at it from log scale, what fibs you're looking, but basically we have a W, we have an X, and we have a Y. Right, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So basically that's a flat and it's done, right? So that's one way you can kind of look at it. Another way, right, and I'm going to get into the lower time frames. Now I'm going to remove everything off the screen. And now look at this, right? So when we zoom in here on this structure, now we can zoom in, right? Now we got the broad sense of it. Now let's zoom in and see what we have here. Let's go to the daily chart. Actually, let's go to the 2-day chart here. Now watch this. So what do we have, guys? We have a 1, 2, 3. We have a 3-wave move. We have another 1, 2, 3. We have another 3-wave move. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have a 3, 3, 5. So that is an ABC. That is an ABC. That's what it is. Okay, so we had 3 up. So this whole move is a 3-wave move to the upside. Now, what do we want? Since we got 3, we want to see 3 back down. Well, guess what? We got 3 back down. We had an A. This is our B wave, and this is C, right? So that would be A, B, C. And in wave C, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is an A, B, C. Okay, so we had 3 up and 3 down. So what happens after that? You're either going to get 3 back up or you're going to get 5 back up. So this is a huge impulse, right? Now, another thing, it could be bearishly, it could also be a flat. This could be a bigger 4th wave, guys. So, it might be true. Maybe it is still rubbish. Maybe we're going to have much lower prices. And I'm not saying that's not the case. I'm just saying, you're ignoring a lot of bullish things that maybe you haven't quite seen yet. So, but there's also a lot of bearish things I didn't talk about as well. One of them, again, being a flat, A, B, C, right? Which means this would be 1, 2, 3, and then we still need, right, 1, 2, 3, and this is 4, we still need 5. Then we can go, right? So basically just saying that this ABC isn't finished here, right? So, but regardless of that, if we need another low or not, we'll find out that soon enough. But let's say the low is in, then what? Well, again, we had 3 up, right? 1, 2, 3, and then 3 down. 1, 2, 3. So we're either going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up, or this is going to turn into 3 like that, right? So it's going to be a W, X, Y, and then we can continue further down, right? If this turns into an impulse like that, then, we might extend it a little bit. And this thing could start, rounding back to the upside here, right? Like so. Let me just put this here. Turn it down a little bit. We can see what? A big cup and maybe this is shaping up to a handle. So if this is a 3 and this is a 3, then we're going to get 3 or 5. That's just, to me, that's just what has to happen, right? The probabilities say that. Now, we could have another low if, like I said, this area is a flat. But if we don't, then I'm expecting it to come up in 5 waves. So we have a 3, 3, 5. Go to Google, type in 335 Elliott wave. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So we're looking at wave structure, right? So if you were to look at this bearishly, it looks, you could say this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we're going down for 5. That could still be the case. I just don't like how big this wave is compared to this wave here, right? So it's getting a little bit too big for me. So what I do like is a 335 here in this sort of cup. Now, if we get back up here, right, we're going to have all of this. The shape of it is going to look really good, and then we can start to break out. That's what I believe. That's what I believe is going to happen. Now, one of the things they didn't talk about, right, and rightfully so, has nothing to do with technicals, but is the lawsuit, right? XRP is another reason why I have confluence is because Ripple, the company, has a lot of bullish things going for it fundamentally, right? But then you also look at the lawsuit, right? It should be ending hopefully sometime this year, even this summer, as the CEO said. There should be some judgment sometime this summer, right? The end of summer is September 21st. So we'll find out if that's the case. Regardless of the outcome, I think people are going to be just relieved that it's over, at least for now, right? Maybe they have to go to trial, whatever the case may be. But regardless of that, it's going. To me, it's going to look really good, right? And then you also have the CEO, Brad Garlinghouse, saying there's a $5 trillion market. That's his prediction, right? So what does he know, right? That seems like an interesting number. Basically, the entire crypto market cap, $5 trillion by the end of 2024, is the Ripple CEO's prediction. So what does he know? Right, you got the Bitcoin ETF, you got the Ethereum ETF about to launch very soon, which can drive an alt season because there's going to be more hope and conviction for an XRP ETF. Brad Garlinghouse confirmed XRP ETF next year. He said it only makes sense, right? Maybe we might be lucky, it might be a little bit sooner than that. We don't know. But the point is, XRP has ammunition, right? We have the lawsuit, we have the XRP ETF, we also have regulation, we have and that will help all of crypto, really. Trump's going to win the office, guarantee it, right? He's pro-crypto. He wants crypto to stay in the United States. He wants the innovation. He wants the business. He wants people. He wants this crypto economy to explode because it's going to help all of us, really. What else? And we also have a Ripple IPO, right? So just like how Coinbase IPO, Ripple's going to IPO. Now, with an IPO, you have to be very strategic on when you sort of do that. Do you want to do that during a massive stock market collapse like people think it's going to be? Or do you want to do it at the top of a Bitcoin bubble or an XRP bubble? There's a lot of different decisions that have to be made, but the lawsuit has to be finished about that. Okay, so I got that all out of the way, the fundamental perspective. So now let's continue with the technical perspective, right? Now, they did draw the trend line, and I like the trend line here. And I agree, we got to break that trend line, right? There's also another one over here that needs to be broken. So that's our downward resistance line. So until that happens, we have to, remain a little bit skeptical here. But another thing, right, if you just draw a trend line like this, you can see right here, right, we had that liquidity grab. Same thing here. We have that liquidity grab in that reaccumulation zone. And look, if we look, it's a little subjective how you draw the trend lines, but essentially we're back above the trend line, guys. And that's why the problem was everybody looked at this as a bear flag. Everybody said it was rubbish. Not just him, but a lot of people. They sold their XRP. They said XRP's trash, right? Alessio put a video out 2 weeks ago saying XRP's in trouble. I wouldn't have said that because, why? Because look, if you look at, for example, the 8-hour chart, we have 5 waves. Why would you say right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? So I would at least if I'm going to say XRP is in trouble, what I would do is I would wait for a three-way pullback and then a continuation down. That's where I would have said XRP is in trouble, right? But, you know, to me, this looks like a very strong impulse. Now, again, what else could be going on here, right? We talked about the trend line, right? You can also see that, right, from this perspective as well. We just talked about it, right? You could see a base getting formed right in here, right? You're building the base, you break out, and then you build another base on top of that base, right? And you can look at this as Wyckoff accumulation, and you can see the liquidity grab there, right? And where did we see this before? We saw this with Bitcoin back in the day. Look at here. You can see the same kind of thing happening, right? Here's your base, right? And then you break out and then you develop a second base that's building upon that base, right? So did you say it looked rubbish then? Well, to be honest, it did look a lot more bullish, to be honest with you, for Bitcoin. So, you know, but essentially, let's go back over here. Now, another thing as well, you can see, obviously, that right there. And that's what that's really my main thing. That's what I've been talking about for a long time, is are we going to get a liquidity grab? I thought it could be a possibility that we had it right there, but obviously it wasn't enough, right? So we got that. And that's important. Why? Because that's exactly what happened here. If I draw a little thing here, right there, you can see right here was the liquidity grab, right? All of that, right? So market makers target liquidity for them to order to fill their positions. Okay, let's continue moving on, because we're already at 41 minutes, and I'm trying to go as fast as I can here, and that's, to me, a little more, I like to be a little more methodical in my approach on explaining things here. So another thing, what we have, right, is you can also look at this, right, if this came down and took out the low, right, which on some exchanges I think it probably did, which is what? Which is a diagonal, right? You have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have a 5-wave move here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you have this diagonal, perfect, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you have A, you have a complex B, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for C. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, A, B, C. So 1, 2. So this whole thing is an up move. This whole thing is a down move. Now we need another up move. You can kind of see it, right? I mean, you can see sort of the direction it's kind of forming here, right? You can see this is going up, and then you can see this is going down, right? To me, that's bullish, right? And now we have a big bullish engulfing weekly candle here, right? So I want to see a three-way pullback and a continuation. Now let's jump into, let's look at the smaller time frames now. But hold on, before I do that, I'm going to look at the smaller time frame, but before I do that, look at this. If I take this whole structure and I take a bars pattern like this, and I'm going to look at it from a fractal perspective. Now look at this. This is really interesting from a time analysis perspective. So basically what I'm going to do, right, you can see, right, this is another thing I don't understand why, these guys are professional. Why not go a little bit more in detail here, I know they do member videos, and I know they pay, they have subscription levels and things like that. Even in the link below, it says check out Charlie's gold level membership, $1.30 for 30-day trial. So if you want to go check out that, I'm going to give him a shout out, right? Because I respect the guy. Charlie is a great guy. Alessio is a great guy. This is not a knock on them. This is just, a conversation that we're having here. And a lot of it I agree with. Some of it I don't, right? So if you look at this overall structure here, and we take this fractal, right, from the top here all the way to the bottom, you can see from a time perspective, it is literally perfect. This is exploding exactly where it should be. Now, I don't have the Bitstamp chart up. It's a little bit questionable about where it should be placed. but essentially, it's right, it's right near where that pivot is right here. So if we look, you can see. Now what I want to do from there, right? So we know from a time perspective, this thing should be ready to do something, right? Just based off the time. So now let's look at it from a structure perspective. So if I take this and I kind of match it up, look at this. Look at this. Now pay attention to this right in here. All of this wave, the wave structure, the shape of it, the look of it, right? So if I take the fractal and I kind of just play with it, I put it there and I move it a little bit here, you can kind of see, right? You can kind of see, right? All of this move, right? You have this back down, then it kind of humps over, drops. Same thing here. It humps over and drops. I mean, it looks beautiful. It looks, pretty close. And then what do you have after that? A massive pump to the upside, right? I'm not saying that's going to happen. Now, it could be, right? We need Bitcoin to, right? We need Bitcoin to get that fifth wave, number one. Also, we need XRP, the lawsuit, to be finished, right? So maybe this pump, maybe some insider knew, hey, something's going on here, right? Because there's always insider information. So we'll keep an eye on it. But that's what I wanted to show you, is this fractal here. Now, there's a lot of other things I want to show you as well, but from a time perspective, I just don't have that time, especially for a YouTube video. The algorithms get killed when you go over 10 minutes. And then they get killed even worse when you go over 20 minutes, 30 minutes, right? And then for me, my videos are towards an hour, and they really get killed. So that's why I really appreciate the likes and the comments. If you can drop a comment, let me know what you think. And liking the video really helps. So what else? What else is there that we can look at? Well, I want to show you one other thing. I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to go to the 4-day chart. And what I'm going to do is, I love this indicator. It's called TD sequential. And you can see, this is another reason I was very bullish. This is another reason I didn't understand why Alessio put that video out while he said XRP is in trouble. Maybe on the macro sense, yes, but coming off a 5-wave move, coming off of oversold oversold situations, it just seemed like a bounce was necessary first. I wanted to see the bounce before I say anything. This bounce is the best bounce we could have asked for, right? We took out these highs in here pretty strongly. But what I want to show you is the 9, right? So what TD sequential is basically an exhaustion indicator. Here's a great example, right? The price comes down, 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 down. It's getting exhausted. When you get to the 9, that tells you, hey, we're getting either a bounce or we're getting a reversal. Now, I like to use it alongside Elliott wave, right? You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you have a 5-wave move to the downside and you have a 9 buy and you have bullish divergence, that is my trading strategy. That's what I like to do. I trade the 9s, I trade the 5th wave, right? And I trade the divergence between the 4th and the 5th. That's how I like to do it, right? And this was a great trade. We had a 9 buy, and then it got activated. You could see those red dots. It broke to the upside. And look at this. It went all the way up to a 9 sell, and that 9 sell actually called the exact top, right? So you can look at it, the 2-day chart, the 1-day chart, the 4-day chart. It all varies. It just depends on what time frame you're looking at. I've had a lot of success with the 4-day chart, just in my experience. So that's what I like to use. But I go look at all time frames. But essentially, what I'm saying is the 9 sell called the exact top. So we know the 9 on the 4-day chart is actually pretty accurate. So look what just happened, guys. Back here, we had a 9 buy, but you could have saw that 9 buy. Why? Because you saw this 8 candle. Look at the 8. This was a huge tail right here. This is a massive dump, and then it got bought right back up, right? And what did I say? I said the next candle is going to be a 9. What else did I say? I said we want it to be trading below the 8. That's exactly what happened. What else did I say? I said chances are this long wick here is going to be retested 50%. So anytime, for example, like look at this wick here, right? You can see this candle came back and retested 50% of that wick. Same thing here. This is a long wick. This candle here retested more than 50% of that wick. But look what happened when that candle printed. It turned into a bullish hammer candle, which then led to an explosive green 2 going above a green 1, going above the 9. So that was an amazing trade right there, right? And where did I get in at? I got in at 39. Let's see. It was 39.23, and that was actually when everyone was super bearish on XRP. Everybody on Twitter, X, saying, "Oh, it's going down, it's going down. I'm selling it all." Right? XRP is going to 0. You started seeing videos and after coming out, and that's when I said, "Oh, I'm getting bullish now." Right? Even Alessio put a video out saying it's super bearish. That's when I said, "You know what? I'm going in." Now this is a trade, right? This is not a hodl position. This is a trade. I'm not married to XRP. This is just a trade, right? So I do have a hodl position. I do have an investment in XRP. 90% of what I do is hodl and invest into crypto because I look at the central banking fiat currency system. I look how much of a scam it is. It's crypto are anti-debt instruments. You want to bet against the debt, become your own central bank, stack gold, stack silver, stack crypto, and just basically have cash on hand and wait for things to happen, right? So I don't mind waiting 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. It doesn't matter. My money is fine. I don't care, right? So you got to have that conviction, right? Because I think crypto is only going to get stronger, stronger, and stronger, and stronger, right? So there's no sense of timing the market, trying to get in, trying to get out. That's fine if you're trading, but you only want to do, for me, it's 10%, right? So I'm not going to do that with my whole position. My main position, I'm just stacking, stacking, stacking. Because, again, the future of crypto is very bright. We're going to get pro-crypto Trump. We're going to get pro-crypto regulations. We're going to get more ETFs. We're going to get more innovation. It's just going to get bigger and bigger, right? So that's why I'm just going to hodl. I don't care about what happens in the short term. But for this trade, for this situation, right, I was at an 8x. I'm up 382%. If I would have listened to the herd, I would have not made the money, right? So that's just the thing. And that's why I recommend subscribing, because I'm going to be following XRP's journey. I'm going to be following Bitcoin's, right? Especially Bitcoin and THETA, right? And CRV, a lot of them. So, and we've been talking about ADA. We've been talking about the 5-wave move. We've been talking about Algorand, right? There's a lot of things that are telling me probably the bottom is in. This is a good time to dollar cost average. For the last several weeks, I've been saying we need a hash out a bottom, hash out a bottom. The bottoming process could take maybe even a month, maybe longer, right? Going back and forth, back and forth. Okay, let's look at the small time frame. So I zoomed in. Let's actually look at the 4-hour real quick. Okay, so obviously we saw this 5-wave move down, right? And we had a 4th wave triangle. We talked about that. And we had 5 down here. So basically I said I want 5 waves. Now, this is like the best thing that could have happened, right? We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, maybe it goes a little bit higher, whatever the case may be. But now what I want to see is a massive pullback in ABC all the way back down to approximately, somewhere in this zone, right? Preferably between this zone and here, right? So if I put the Fibonacci retracement up, contingent on this is the low, that comes in right around the 618, around 46 cents. Now, I'm letting you know ahead of time. That's what I'm expecting. So we have a 5-wave move. People are looking at XRP like, oh, it looks pretty bullish. Then they buy in. Then what happens? We come all the way down in ABC, right? So we're sitting at 58 cents. So imagine next week we're sitting at 46 cents. Everybody on Twitter, everybody going to come out and say, oh, look, XRP's crashing. See, I told you so. It was blah, 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 right? They're all going to come out and say, it's bad, it's whatever. But again, this is what we want. We want XRP to come down. Why? Because we want a 3-wave shape. So if you didn't buy XRP, right, this could still be just a dead cat bounce. We don't know. We want to see how it comes down. If we get a 3-wave shape back down, it's going to look really bullish, right? And if we get a nice impulse, buy the 3-wave pullback on that subwave, and then ride that thing up, right? Because I'm looking at this as a wave 1. I want to see a wave 2. Maybe we flag out and then we get a monster third wave. Now, that's what I'm thinking here. That's how I'm playing this, right? It could be totally wrong, not financial advice. We'll find out and see what happens. But basically, I'm expecting it to make its way back up into the retracement level somewhere. I mean, we already hit the 618, to be honest with you. Did we? No, not quite yet. So we haven't made it to the 618 yet. So I want to see it actually get between 60 and 67 cents here, right? Not on this wave, after we pull back, right? It could be on this wave. We just have to wait and see. But essentially, that is about it here for XRP. Again, we have a 5-wave move. Now, when you compare that to something like, let's see, Matic. Now, Matic looks a lot weaker. We don't have that 5-wave move, right? It looks a little lackluster. And that could be a very big concern, even for XRP, because if XRP's getting this bullish run, but the rest of the market isn't, then there's a disconnect, there's a divergence. So maybe it might be short-lived. But essentially, XRP, right, on the Matic chart had a big breakout above this level, right? So when we go to total 3, it looks a little better, right? But it still is only a 3-wave move. I want to see total 3 pull back and then continue higher, right? Because we still only have a 3-wave move in total 3. I want to see a wave 4 and then a wave 5. Now let's look at Bitcoin here. This is important. Now Bitcoin, again, I talked about Bitcoin. It can either be very bullish, 1, 2, 1, 2, and now we're going up in that 3rd wave, or this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a leading diagonal right in here, and then we get a 3-wave pullback and then a continuation to the upside. So, so far, I want to see Bitcoin pull back, and then I want to see it hit the high. So it'd be a 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and maybe another 4, 5, and then get a big ABC back down here, and then continue higher in the bull run. So that's kind of overall what I'm expecting. Again, we can still come all the way back down and revisit the low and still be considered bullish, right? So let me just put this zone right here. We could literally come all the way back down here, right? We're at 64K. Imagine going to 56K. Everybody's bearish. Look, it's selling off, but it's actually just a pullback before we go higher, right? We have a wave 1, wave 2, then we go into wave 3, 4, and 5. Because the whole idea here, guys, is to break above what? Is really to break above this liquidity, which is right here. So we need to break, and I really like it because it looks like a double top. It looks like, there's strong resistance there. So the market makers are going to be targeting that liquidity. There's a lot of buy-side liquidity up there, right? So we'll see. And I think there's a fair value gap as well up there somewhere. So the idea, right, for Bitcoin, 1, 2, we want to break out. We want to back test, and we want to continue higher. And then we want Bitcoin, to finish up wherever it's going to go between 84 and 100K. And then we want to see some distribution, right? So we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we go into distribution. All of that distribution is going to have rotation, in my opinion, into the altcoins. And that's where we get the alt season, right? The environment needs to be perfect for an alt season to occur, right? So let's look at an altcoin here. Looking at, like, for example, Filecoin. They look very similar, right? You have this, I'm just using Filecoin as an example, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you have 3, 3, and then 5. So you have an ABC. So you have a 1, 2. So this thing, right, it might make another low. It needs to hash out a bottom here, build a base, and then break out. That's what we want to see. If we start going down again, obviously we'll have to reevaluate. But from a technical perspective, this thing should start to reverse sometime soon, right? On the micro, we might get a little bit of a lower low. We'll see what happens. But anyways, I just wanted to come out with that video. I got total respect for Alessio. I've been subscribed to his channel for a long time. I really enjoy his updates. I was just a little bit disappointed about the way they talked about XRP, not because from a fundamental perspective, but because they really didn't jump into all the details, the nitty-gritty stuff that I like to do. So I just wanted to put this video out there. Maybe it might be well received. I just want, a little bit more of a case for XRP. So anyways, that'll do it. I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.